Parents of TikTok, what is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you?
I have so many of these, but this one is by far the creepiest one. So when my son was about 3 years old, I was changing his diaper in my bedroom the one day. And he told me, he was like, Mom, there's a man with black eyes standing behind you. And I was just like, okay. It's like I look over my shoulder and of course nothing is there. And I'm just like, jokingly, I was just like, well, there better not be a man with black eyes standing behind me or else I'm going to be performing an exorcism up in here. Said it as a joke. He's 3. He's not going to know what an exorcism is. And he just says, he's just like, Mom, he's screaming at you. He's screaming at you.
Parents of TikTok, what is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you?
So my mom passed away when I was 11 years old. My daughter was born on my mom's birthday. At the time she was 5, we were eating at Whataburger. I had took her to eat after school. She was playing in the little play area and then she just came to sit down and she was looking at me like this, just staring at me. So I smiled and I just gave her a smile back, and I will never forget this day in my life. She looks at me and she says, "Hey, do you know I'm your mom?" And I was like, "No, I'm your mom." And then she said, "Well, yeah, I know you're my mom, but I'm your mom." And I had never ever been so freaked out in my life. And she says, "I'm your mom." And I said, No, 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 I'm your mom." And she looks at me again and she says, "No, I'm telling you I'm your mom." And I didn't know what else to say. I just looked at her. And then she just looked at me again and she says, "I don't know what happened." And I said, "AJ, what do you mean?" She's like, "I don't know what just happened. I don't remember." And then she just takes off running back into the play area.
Creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you?
My oldest child wakes me up in the middle of the night and tells me about this horrifying dream that she just had where a massive demon is straddling her and has these 2 fingers that are 9 inches long and they are on fire, and he is trying to, how she described it, claw the life out of her. And she was able to escape her bed and wake up and come tell us. Well, later that day, my second oldest comes and tells me he had the same freaking dream. So I'm going through their room praying over their space and praying over their bed, and both of their pillows have massive seared, singed claw marks through them, literally parallel, both of their pillows. When I tell you, I about burnt my house down.
What is the creepiest thing your kid ever said?
When my daughter was 3, she came in my room in the middle of the night, woke me up and said, "Mommy, can you please get the little girl out of my room?" And I'm sleeping. I'm like, "What little girl?" She's like, "The little girl, she's jumping on my bed. She wants to play with me. She won't get out of my room." I'm like, "Oh, just sleep with me." So she slept with me. The next day, I didn't think anything of it. Then she comes to me and says, "I'm so sick of Daddy moving my toys around in my dollhouse. He comes in my room and plays with my dollhouse and moves them all around." I'm like, "I highly doubt your father's doing that. He probably banged into it by accident, making your bed or something." This went on for pretty much every morning. Somebody's rearranging my dollhouse. Didn't think anything of it at all. The only reason I thought of it was because one night me and my husband come in from outside and our oldest daughter comes and says, oh my gosh, Mom, Dad, the freakiest thing just happened." And we're like, "What?" And she's like, "I came downstairs and Jen was in the kitchen. And then I see her walk by, so I walk to follow her in her room to see if she's okay. And I see her in her bed sleeping. But she was just walking. So I wanted to make sure that she wasn't tricking me. So, I tried to wake her up, but she was sleeping. She wasn't joking. "I think I saw a ghost." And I'm like, oh crap. Jennifer said there was a little girl in her room. I wonder, So the next day I say to Jennifer, "What does the little girl look like?" And she said, "She has long blonde hair, blue eyes, and she's white. She looks like me." Okay, because my daughter had long blonde hair, blue eyes. And I said, is she your age? And she said, no, she's younger than me. She's probably 2 or 3. Now, my daughter was 4, maybe 4.5. So I'm like, holy crap. So, I'm on the phone with my mom and my sisters, and I'm like, I'm freaking out. And I'm like, what the hell do I do? And my sister reminds me, I trash picked that damn dollhouse, like right when this whole thing started going. But you don't notice little things, right? I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. I brought a spirit into my house by trash picking this like handmade built dollhouse I thought was beautiful. Like, oh, and that's the dollhouse the furniture was being arranged in. Her furniture. It didn't come with furniture. I just trash picked the dollhouse. Anyway, long story short, we ended up burning the dollhouse in the fire pit to try to get rid of the spirit. And then maybe 6 months later, my daughter comes to me and says, oh my gosh, Mom, we burned that little girl's dollhouse, and then she burned our house down because we were living in a hotel because our whole entire house burned down. Coincidence or creepy crawly? I have no idea.
What is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you?
So my youngest child has said more than her share of creepy things, but the first one that comes to mind is when she was about 3 or 4. That was the age that I started homeschooling her a little bit alongside her older brother. And on this particular day, we were playing with a globe and talking about the different continents and oceans and the different countries. And she got really interested in this globe, and she was pointing to this particular spot that was sort of in northeast Russia. And I asked her about it, and she says, Mommy, this is where I used to live. And I just thought she was using her imagination, and I said, oh, really? You did? And she said, yeah, that was back when I was a grown-up, before I lived with you. And she proceeded to tell us about her family and her house. And
what is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you?
When my son was 4, he would always tell me that he wasn't from this planet. Oftentimes, I would find him visibly upset. And when asked why, he would say, because I'm not from this planet. When he was around 6, we had started talking about it one day, and I asked him to explain it to me, and he said that he isn't human. This is just the form he uses on this planet. And then he says that he chose me. Exact words. He chose me as a vessel for his rebirth. And then followed it up with, sometimes I really miss home. He hasn't mentioned it in a while, but still to this day it creeps me out thinking about it.
Parents of TikTok, what is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you? So this morning I take my 4-year-old to the doctor. He had an ear infection a couple of weeks ago. We went in for a follow-up. Everything's okay. As we are leaving, we pass a couple of wheelchairs in the lobby. And my 4-year-old looks at them and says, I've never used a wheelchair. And I say, well, your legs work just fine. You don't need a wheelchair. And my 4-year-old says, in his perfectly innocent 4-year-old voice, after our car accident, I'll need a wheelchair.
What's the family tea that you found out once you got old?
That my grandmother was the other woman. Back in the day, my grandfather was extremely well off. He owned a ton of land and had his wife living pretty much